All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the MEC Labs Live Optimization webinar. These are some of my favorite webinars to do. It's where we're going to really get real practical and look at your own pages. The audience, you guys have submitted many pages. We have a lot of pages lined up to review together. And this whole webinar is dedicated to just giving practical advice, ways to potentially improve the performance of your own pages. We are a research institute dedicated to discovering the answer to one essential question. That question is this: why do people say yes? What's really working when it comes to customer response, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to business strategy? We've been doing it for over 20 years, and many of you may know us from one of our publishing brands, Marketing Experiments. In fact, this webinar is connected to the experiments that we talked about last week. We've run lots of experiments here at MEC Labs. We have the world's largest library of case studies and experiments. And what we're going to be doing today, and I'm going to introduce in a minute, but I have a whole panel here of guests. We're going to be taking the learnings from our 20 years of research and our clinic from last week and applying it to your pages. Now, I am not alone here, which is very exciting. And for those watching by video or watching on the webinar, I have three special guests with me today. I'm going to have them introduce themselves and just give you a sense of who they are and their background and kind of what their specialty is. And I'll start with Ben here to my left. Okay, Ben?
Yeah, thanks, Austin. Yeah, my name is Ben Phillip. I work here at MEC Labs for over 4 years now. Started in the data sciences team. I've also done a lot of optimization and other things, working directly with the partners to try to get the most lifts and gains we can and learn the most about their customers.
Excellent, excellent. Let's jump over here to Winifred on the right.
Hi there, I'm Winifred Thomas Cox. I'm the Executive Vice President and Senior Director of our Partner Solutions team that falls within our services organization. So for all of those partners that we work with in partnership to help them solve a business problem for them, the team that I work with helps to understand what those problems are and help to work with folks like Ben and others to drive those results for you.
And Winifred is deeply ingrained in a lot of the strategy and a lot of the kind of the strategic thinking going into a lot of the experimentation testing. So I'm looking forward to some of the feedback you're going to give on some of these pages. We also have one other new person on the line, Walker. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Walker.
Thank you, Austin. Yes, my name is Walker Ragland. I'm the Marketing Operations Specialist here at MEC Labs. I mostly work with the projects that the marketing team is working on, our internal marketing team here. Also run the social media, that's where my background resides. So it's a lot of fun, I have a lot of fun here, and we'd really appreciate your retweets, guys.
Of course, you had to throw the plug in there, didn't you? And speaking of retweets and interaction, one of the things is, and I say this every time and I mean it, we do this live because we don't want this to just be a monologue from us. We want to create a conversation, a dialogue back and forth, particularly as we're looking at pages. I want to get your feedback and I want you to hear our feedback. So a couple ways you can do that. Remind me the hashtag? Okay, so the main way you can use this right now is using the question and answer feature provided by GoToWebinar. You see it right there on your panel there on the right-hand screen. I just go encourage you, if you're new to this, or it's your first webinar, just take a stab, try it out, send a test question in there. I have a screen where I can see all your questions coming in through that. So before we get, so we have lots of marketers on the line, and so you just want to be ready, have your fingers on your keyboard ready to interact with us. So going back to last week and kind of the focus of our research, every month we do a web clinic through our publishing brand Marketing Experiments. And last week we were looking at some pretty interesting research that we've done recently around banner ads. And we had a special guest with us from Humana, Mike Loveridge. It was an awesome guest to have, had a lot of good insights, a lot of rich experiments that he walked us through. And we were looking at what makes a banner ad particularly effective. And I'm not going to go into that whole clinic. You can watch it. It's up live for free. You can watch the replay. I'll give you a link to that in a minute. But there were three things we identified that made a banner more effective. And this is from really hundreds of experiments and testing on web pages. But here's one of the things we've noticed, and this may seem kind of common sense. Oftentimes, what we find with our experiments, it's common sense isn't common practice. And we may see that today with some of the pages we're looking at. But the first thing is, a banner ad should be dedicated. I'm not going to explain that too much, but at the end of the day, the fewer options, the more focused, the clearer, and the more orienting it is. The second thing is a banner should be aligned with the motivations of the actual users. very often we see companies, and we'll see some of them today in the pages that have been submitted, that are thinking more about what they want the customer to do rather than where the customer is and what they're looking for in that right moment. For banner ads, you're dealing earlier in the funnel process, and so the asks and the thing you're requiring of them is going to be different than if you were further down in the funnel. Final thing, and I think this one is almost kind of the advanced level of banner ads, is bringing a level of interaction into them. We've seen through a lot of our experiments, and we walked through some of those last week, where by adding a strategic way for the audience to interact with the banner, improve not just a button, but like a way to get them engaged, that fostered a lot of response. And so trying to view banner ads less like an advertisement that the customer's meant to absorb, but rather maybe something that's inviting them to engage. And so these were the three kind of summary principles. We had like a checklist. We had a lot of things in that clinic, but we're going to be basing our feedback today on those three principles, as well as some of the insights we've gained over the last 20 years. Now, if you missed the clinic, that's fine. It is online, free, on demand. We have a link there. You can go to marketingexperience.com and watch it there. Now, I'm not going to rehash the whole clinic, just those three principles, because what I want to do and what we're trying to reserve, and this is by popular demand, we're trying to reserve most of the time just for live optimization. On that clinic, we got to look at 1 or 2 pages, but that was it. What we have today is we have a whole lineup of pages we're going to go through, and we're going to shift into that effectively. Now, I see many of you are using the tool. I can see Steven, I can see Rosie. So you guys are giving us feedback. Good, you got the tool. Get ready, audience. We're going to be engaging and interacting around some of these pages. I'm going to be asking you what you think based on the observations that we made last week. All right, so there's my setup. How'd I do, Ken? Are we doing good on time? Awesome. Good. So live optimization. Here is the first page. Dan, you're ready. All right, Dan. I'm ready too. All right, so this page was submitted by Kathy. Kathy, if you're on the line, let us know. It's always good to see if you're on the line. Primary audience is B2C, and the overall goal of this page is to try to generate travel award applications. It's basically that right-hand form on the screen. Now, here's what I want to do. Yep, Kathy's on the line. Awesome. Awesome, Kathy. Thanks. See that. All right, so I want to start with you, Ben. Ben, looking at this page, and particularly looking at the banner, what are some things that you see that Kathy is doing that maybe could be improved?
Well, the thing that popped out to me is when I read this, being someone who travels quite frequently, I think of travel rewards as the more I travel, the more I get. This is really a page, from what I could tell, diving a little deeper into it. This is $1,000 that helped to support the original research of your thing. So they're really wanting you to use this money to continue researching using their Vivo Imaging systems product, and I think it's just disconnected from the user. Also, when you get to the form you have to fill out on the right-hand side, they haven't really provided. We're talking about it like aligning to what the customer's motivation is. I believe it's a little too early in the customer's thought sequence for them to be asking for all this information. So any way you could rework this page to get a little bit more of that value proposition up there before asking that. The last thing I'll say about this page was there was some button copy and button issues that we talk about all the time that stood out to me. But those were my kind of top 3 thoughts when I was going through this page.
Yeah, and looking at the banner on this page, when I look at this and I'm thinking of that first principle we talked about in terms of dedication, or you could say focus or something like that. I see Vivo, I see travel awards, I see this text over here to the right, and I see apply today.
Right.
I don't fully know, it's almost like they're equally weighted. I don't know where to look, and that creates a little bit of confusion.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think especially with the apply today being as big as it is, apply seems like there's some kind of criteria, and it almost in my mind anyway, was making me think I'm going to have a lot of information. I have to have a lot of detailed stuff to apply, because when you apply for a credit card or apply for a loan or anything else we apply for, so if there's a way to reword that as well as de-emphasize that, like I would even say find out how to apply down below, because maybe that's more in line with the customer's thinking at that time.
Yep, and my thinking was along the same lines when I took a look at this page as well. We have apply today, but we're assuming the motivation of the person coming here. We're not sure if they know exactly what it is that they're supposed to do, if they're just now being introduced to this concept of being able to submit their research for this award. Down below, we have some steps from a sequential perspective of saying download your application here. But here on the right-hand side, we're already letting you know to submit your application as if you've already downloaded. So from a customer thought sequence perspective, we haven't given them the appropriate steps to help them get through that process. They're jumping around trying to figure, what do I do next? Where do I go? How do I get this up here? And so we haven't directed the customer appropriately through this process.
That's a great point.
So let me push you guys on that a little bit, because I think that's a very valid point. What would you do differently? And now we're going beyond the banner at this point. What would you do on this page to more effectively, and this is, Kathy, for you, a test, right? So we're not saying that this is for sure going to win, but we think this is a good hypothesis based on our experience. But what would you guys recommend to Kathy in terms of testing to make that process more clear?
From my perspective, I think in terms of the value proposition right up the front, it's not clear of why should I participate in this. You haven't provided me with enough clarity around what it is. So in that banner, I would use that banner to, first of all, make the statement of, you have to say, what is it? Why am I here? And what do you want me to do? And we haven't done that very clearly.
Well, yeah, and I think on top of that too, in the banner, when you're, this is something that you're giving to someone, and you make it seem like it's kind of free to do, right? But in my experience, there's not much that's free. There's going to be some cost associated with it. So being clear as to what the value versus the cost ratio is and what exactly you're going to do, other than just giving your personal information. For instance, it's only for a dedicated type of presentation that you can get this for. So.
That's right. I'm sorry, I was just going to add one thing. When you read the text there that says, this award supports research advancements using Vivo Imaging systems, when I'm coming there as the customer, I want to understand, so that's what you want me to know?
Yeah.
What is it that I'm coming here for that I want to know?
Yeah,
and what is the messaging that you could provide to me to make me understand I'm in the right place? This is something that I want to do as well.
Everything in the banner is focused, Kathy, on what you guys are. I think that's what, to Winifred's point. And the title, if I read it right, Vivo Travel Awards, it's just a statement of you, of who you are. And then this award is kind of a little bit deepening, but it's an echo of that. And when you get to apply today, that's misalignment that we talked about earlier. But if you say Vivo Travel Awards, you repeat that 3 times on this page. You got it in the banner, and then you got it in the headline right below the banner, and then you got it in the headline for the form field. And so not only is it not really connecting with the customer, but you are doing that over and over and again. My one recommendation for you on this, because I know that we could totally change this page, but what I would start with is just maybe testing those headlines. Testing those headlines in terms of bringing some clarity to what the customer actually gets out of this. So what is it that they get? Instead of just saying Vivo Travel Awards, what do you get from the Vivo Travel Awards? And then maybe a second level of that in that other headline below the banner ad, and then assuming that they're motivated, what is the real thing they get from filling out the application? And so maybe the apply today should happen there, but it's apply today to what end? You want them to apply, but why do they want to apply? And focusing on that in our experiments generally outperforms just focusing on what you want them to do. So, Kathy, hopefully you find that helpful. Thank you for submitting your page. And if you do any experiments on this page, we always love to see and to learn and to grow with the audience out there. You're very welcome, Kathy. Appreciate being a good sport in this. Let's go to our next page. Got a lot in front of us. I have the clicker too. Hurry, someone take us to the next page. All right, I'll do it. So, Rosetta Stone, all right? So now, it's pretty, they've been on this call a lot. And so, Katie, if you're on, let us know. I know there's been other people in your organization that we've worked with in terms of these webinars and these events, but this is a different page altogether. And we can see the banner at the top. Luke, go ahead and take us to the full page. And before I let Winifred go on this page, So whenever you get ready. Audience, I want to make sure that this is starting to make sense and you're starting to get this. This wasn't what I expected. Go ahead and X out of that. We will just assume that didn't happen, okay? We would have a lot to say about that, but let's just assume that didn't happen and you're on this page. Now, audience, remember the principles that we talked about. Go ahead and stay up top, Luke. Stay at the very top, all the way at the top, because we're just going to focus on the banner. I just want you guys focusing on the banner right now. What do you think that this, you can exit out of that.
Yeah, we're not going to chat right now.
Yeah, we could chat. We've done that before. But audience, looking at this page, where do you think they can improve the performance of their actual banner ad here? And remember the principles we talked about. We talked about dedication. Is this banner ad focused enough? We talked about alignment. Is this banner ad aligned with where they are in the thought sequence? And then is this causing or inviting the audience to engage? Just want to give you a moment to look at it. What do you think? Now I see some feedback coming in. I see, Tom says, add a guarantee. Tom, what do you mean by that? Go ahead and flesh that out a little bit. What kind of guarantee are you talking about? I think you're on the right path though. So David says, where am I supposed to click? Okay, so that gets to that interaction piece. That's a lot of money, says Tom. Okay, how's that connect? Okay, money back guarantee. Good. So that's what Tom's suggesting. I think that's good. Add reviews, says Marcelo. Good, and adding those reviews would bring us some credibility. No call to action, says Dan. All right, you guys are providing some good feedback. Keep thinking about this page, but while you guys are thinking, I want to have Winifred just kind of, when you look at this page, what do you see?
Well, there were a lot of the thoughts that came up from the folks that are viewing were very similar to mine in this. I think, however, the very first thing that I would think about is, again, when you get to a page, you want to know where are you and what are you supposed to do when you get there. When I look at this page, it reminds me very much of a product page, more so than it does a banner in a landing page. Primarily because you have the imagery of the product itself on the left-hand side there, and then on the right, to the right of it, you have the price, which is typically how you have a product page laid out. Also, when you look at iPath, I want to get the information, understand I'm in the right place, and I'm here, and I can do what it is that I want to do in that place right away. So you're going to start in that top left corner, and then you're going to work your way down. And so all I see are some yellow drawings and pictures when I first glance on there to see that. And then I see speak a new language with confidence, but what would strengthen this if we had a headline on there as well that gave me a little bit more value in terms of where I'm supposed to be, and then that aligns with whatever motivation it is. So for instance, if I'm highly educated about this product and I'm coming in from, let's just call it an infomercial, or if there's another video that I've watched in some of your other paid media, etc., and I'm landing on this page, then to help connect that, make that connection with me with some additional value there, and then you can, with the subhead of a speak with a new language with confidence there. So kind of help me with that thought sense. So right away I would switch those two things in the test and put the price on the other end. The call to action, I believe, who was that? Was that Dan?
Yep.
That said that there was no call to action there. Again, what am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go next? Why should I start now for $249? And what exactly am I starting? Right? There's an opportunity for us to help the consumer through this process. Right up front, I would switch those things, but I would also perhaps add some steps, 1, 2, 3. First, do this. Select your next language, because that gets to the bottom, and I don't know exactly what I'm selecting my next language first. What's going to happen after that? I don't know. I'm confused. And you never want your customer to be confused, because at that moment is when you get your micro no, and they leave the process. And we don't want them to lead the process. We want to keep them engaged as they go. And quite frankly, the other thing that I would change is that it's taking up nearly all the real estate on the page. The banner I would test a much smaller banner, because in order to, if we could scroll down a little bit on this page, as you start to scroll down on this page, you're not going to scroll down that far on this page, right? You really have a few seconds to catch the attention and let someone know what it is that they're supposed to do on that page, and we're missing that opportunity. There's more that I can add here. For instance, some of your anxiety relievers, like the money back guaranteed and like why I would buy this product, they're all, to Steve's point earlier, and some of the, when he talked about money back guarantees, those are anxiety relievers.
And they actually have it on the page. You just
it's
saw
all
it.
the way at
all
the bottom, so
iPad.
no one's ever going to see it.
That's right. Now I want to scroll up and just point out one thing. So I think all that feedback's real good, and actually some more feedback came in while you were talking for that was mirroring what you're saying. No, it's good. I wanted to speak about that headline for a minute. I'm just going to assume that's the headline. I assume it's in a good position right now. I think Winifred's suggestions are right there in terms of the iPad. But speak a new language with confidence. One thing that headline is doing better than the previous page we saw is that it is connecting to the resulting experience that the customer is getting. If you remember from the previous web page, it just simply said travel awards.
That's right.
It was just kind of creating a category. This one is actually taking one step further and saying, okay, so because they could simply say, language software, but this is actually helping them see what they get from it. Now, where this headline could, I think, do a little better is there's lots of software out there that try to help me speak a new language. Yeah. There's nothing in it that sets Rosetta Stone apart. And I've worked with Rosetta Stone and people in the group, and I know that you guys have some, and I think it's actually lower on the page, you guys have some really exclusive things about your product in terms of the linguists behind the software, the technology behind the software, the algorithms you've created for people speaking and the software adapting to that. Yeah, some of that stuff down at the bottom there is very valuable. And so bringing that up earlier to establish that uniqueness, because you do only have, to Winifred's point, just a few seconds. Let me ask you guys this. What do you think about Start Now? One of the principles we talked about from the web clinic was this idea of aligning with motivations. Do you think that, where do you, and I asked that to you audience as well, do you think that's aligned with the motivations? And if not, what would you recommend differently?
Yeah, so I think that Start Now might be asking too much too soon. If I were them, I would test between Start Now, Learn More, because if I'm wanting to learn another language and I want to look into software that could help me do that, I'm going to compare my options. I don't necessarily want to jump right into the first big banner on the page and say, you know what, this is the one for me, Start Now. So I would encourage them to try an option of Learn More or something to help them explore a little bit more of why this option is better and offer that unique value proposition.
Yeah, I think Start Now implies that you can actually start now, but if you look at the products themselves, they're CDs and DVDs and books on tape. It's not necessarily like as soon as I pay you, I can actually start learning the language. I have to wait for a package to arrive potentially, or at least download something, get it onto my iPad. So you're really not starting now. A couple other things with that whole Start Now for just $249. When we talk about incentives, it's about putting the incentive in the right place, right? If you sell this product as if its value is $500, and then later in this thought sequence you say, we're going to give you half off right now, right? And especially half off as instead of $249 instead of $499. It just, it adds the value and puts it in a quantitative thing that we digest more. But right now you're selling a $249 product. The $499 is gone as soon as I see that, because now, I'm weighing the options for $249 versus giving the incentive to actually make what you've sold me as $500 that much more valuable.
That's exactly it. And to the point you made earlier, Austin, I used to sit on the side of the table where I managed software. I managed was the P&L owner of a specific software platform. And one of the things that part of whenever I had a marketing communication, I was very careful, to the point that you just made, Ben, about how I presented my price, because it has significant impacts to your pricing strategy. And it will have impacts pervasive not only in what you do online, but in all of your other channels as well. So and it starts to define your value proposition around a discounted price as well. So you talk about the value of your product, and then you treat price as an incentive when it truly is an incentive, because the way it's presented now is presented as a price decrease as opposed to an incentive, and it cheapens the brand a little bit to a certain degree.
Yeah. And I think, you know, you mentioned the image too, and this image has been bothering me since we started looking at this page, because I don't see the tie back into the product. I mean, I see a hot dog and some pretzels and an accordion, and I have no idea what that has
Where's
to do
the bag of chips?
with, yeah, you have a bag of chips. You might as well have a guy surfing on there. It's about the same tie-in to language as anything else. At least they might be surfing in a foreign country where I need to know the language or something. But I would definitely work on the imagery and tie it back. Yeah, or eating chips while surfing. That's the key.
I don't know how this conversation got here, but I agree with you, Ben. I think, but you know, the one thing is, at least it is the product. Sometimes you see banner ads like this, and it's just smiling people. At least they're that step. But what would you do to connect it even further for them?
I'd put somebody, you know, actually using the product with a smile on their face, or somebody in a foreign language interacting with like somebody who looks native or something like that. That feeling of success, that Rosetta Stone is going to be the one that gets me there, I think is the image that I want to see. Because if you ever traveled abroad, you didn't know the language, and there wasn't a bunch of people who knew your native tongue, it's very, very difficult. So showing that relief of knowing the language is something that I would probably use. Yeah,
and so Katie, for you, just as we wrap this up, a lot of feedback there. One thing that the audience is saying that honestly I didn't think about it, but I think it's just really helpful to see that when you say start now for just $249, it does create a little bit of anxiety. There were a lot of questions around, is that it, or is that how is it just start there? Is it going to get more expensive later? So even the use of that language not only is not aligned with their motivations, but it's potentially causing some anxiety. I know Winifred talked about incentive. There's a lot we could say about incentive and even the role of discount incentives versus other incentives. Katie, if that's something that intrigues you and you think would be useful, we have a whole session on incentive in one of our courses. And if you reach out to us, we'll get you access to that, okay? So that's Katie. Let's move on quickly to our next page. All right, we're doing well. Audience, take a look at this page. This is submitted by Farah. The audience is B2B, and this is an interesting product, and it's about basically workplace solutions, and particularly in this one, it's about restrooms and bathrooms and making sure that they're effective. This is a perfect one for you, Walker.
Yes.
Okay. And so, Walker, looking at this page. Actually, before you go, Walker, I want to, again, just see how the audience is doing. Audience, look at this. And Farah, you're on the line. That is excellent. Glad you're here. Look at this page. And for Farah, what are some things, based on the principles we learned last week, just looking at the banner, can we go to the page and pull up the banner? Yep. Looking at the banner, what are some things that you see, audience, that Farah could potentially test or optimize in this banner? We'll take a look at the whole page, and then we'll scroll up to the top. I'm going to hold Walker back for like 2 minutes. Probably not even that long. I don't know if I can hold him back that long. Look at the banner ad. Go all the way to the top, Luke. And audience, what do you think you could say? Yeah, so I see Tom says lots of options to click. Okay. The skyscraper imagery doesn't appeal to me, says Chris. Okay.
I think those are chess pieces.
Yeah, are they? Yep. Are they chess pieces? Are they skyscrapers? What are they? Are they skyscraper chess pieces? All right. So, Walker.
Yes.
While the audience is giving feedback, what do you see on this page? Where would you improve the banner?
So, first off, the banner does do one thing really well in encouraging interaction, which is what we talk about. I worry a little bit about take the chess test. So we have, chess stands for something. I'm not exactly sure what it is. It's obviously explained a little bit lower down, but for somebody to just land on this page and I see a banner with some hybrid between chess pieces and skyscrapers, I fail to see the connection between that and the bathroom, the company. How do your restrooms measure up against your competition?
What does chess have to do with restrooms?
Right.
Yeah.
And what do the buildings have to do with restrooms?
Yeah, what do the buildings have to do with restrooms? And I'm just, in terms of the transferable principle here for Walker, and he's hitting on something intuitively. But audience, this is really important. What this banner ad is doing effectively is it's being clever. What it's doing ineffectively is it's not being clear. It's actually cleverness at the expense of clarity. And so you got to watch for that, because as marketers, our tendency is to want to be clever, to create these acronyms, et cetera, but you start losing connection with the audience. Keep going.
Right. So scrolling down a little bit down the page past the banner, we see them explain the chess program to us. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I noted was it was just a little copy heavy to start with, and they have a fantastic infographic below that. And our research has showed that infographics, especially on social media, perform superbly as far as it's content that people can easily digest, and it's not a daunting thing to look at that, as opposed to a very copy-heavy thing. So I would say that bring that infographic higher, because it does explain exactly what the chest test is. So bring that a little bit higher, instead of scrolling down, somebody seeing halfway through all these paragraphs and just saying, you know what, it's not quite worth my time.
Absolutely, absolutely. You say something?
Oh, I was agreeing with them, but you know, I think the not worth my time piece is in the banner, all the calls to action, one being equally weighted, but watch a video, big time draw, take a test, how long is this test? It's another big time commitment. So, you know, if I'm hurry, I think that this chess image on the right actually explains what the CHES and S stand for, but it's so small and muted you can't even see it. I would blow that up so that I at least know that I made it to the right place, and you know, not something else.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd also be cautious, because the eye path is something that we have to really concern ourselves with, is that the top of the page in general feels busy. And if you want somebody to engage with this banner, you probably don't want anything before that, so that the eye path going from top to bottom is not distracted by so many different clickable items and calls to action. So I like the fact that the banner has this interaction, encouraging you to interact with it. But I fear that the analogy there distracts from it.
And you may even be building your business around this chest test. You may be trying to create a brand around that. I'm not saying you have to get rid of that, but you're going really heavy on that. And so the heavier you go, the more disconnect from clarity you're going to have. One of the things that you could do with the image to replace the skyscrapers, and this is a test for you, Farah, is actually show maybe some of the some example results from this test. You know, like here's the category, and here's what someone's score was. Here's the category. Here's what the score was here. And so you have an intrigue play, which I think works. There's times where that is very effective. You're doing well with the interaction. You're asking them to engage. You're not asking too much. I don't think so. You're not asking them to buy yet. You're just kind of, you know, getting them to learn about themselves. That's often very effective. You're just losing clarity. So maybe bring an image to show what that test is going to look like on the other side of taking the test. Probably with the two calls to action, the chest test as well as watching the video, you probably want to pick one of those, especially since they're equally weighted. Which one is going to be more effective for you?
And that gets to the first key principle for last week as well, in terms of dedicated and having kind of one focal point of what you want the consumer to do as well. The other thing that I would add is that I would add some process level value around those call to actions as well, because we say watch the video. What is the video, and why should I watch the video? And if you're asking me to take the test, should I watch the video before I take the test so that I'm prepared to take the test? Or do I take the test and then watch the video to get my results? So we really do need to add a little bit more speaking to clarity, but value around the process that you're asking the consumer to take.
Absolutely. Now, I've noticed something on the banners we've looked at so far, and it's a very common trend we see with banners, and it's a question we often get from our audience. This banner is one of, I don't know, 6 banners that are going to be rotating. A lot of websites today are using this kind of carousel rotating banner thing, and so I just wanted to pose that question to you guys from the research that you've seen in the lab, the stuff we've been doing. Is that effective? Is that confusing? What are we seeing with our research there?
The tests that I've ran where we just the least amount of, the less you can do it, the better. One dedicated, you know, banner does well. I've even gotten to the point, and it's possible I just look at more websites than other people because of the work, but if it's rotating, I don't even look at it. I'm pretty much scrolling past it at that point, because I don't want to sit there and take in all this information. And really, if I can't get the value in one banner, then you're just missing the point. You should be able to get the value and why I'm here and why I should care about being here right there in the first banner.
Mm-hmm. I think, and I'm looking at, Farah, the scrolling banners in your website. The one thing that you do have working in your favor is that you have a single message going across, or at least a single focus point around chess as you're going across through those banners as well. However, most folks aren't going to stay there and watch if you're telling the story through those banners around those things. So to Ben's point before, and that's what the research has shown as well, but to Ben's point, the fewer you can have, the better served
less is more
you're
here.
going to be.
I think a lot of people get into the rotating banners because of potentially two reasons. Number one, sometimes it just comes out of the box with our kind of our website, CMS, and platform. It's like, hey, it's a little trinket, and we can put many things in here or whatever.
That's right.
And yeah, so that's potentially one reason. Just because it comes out of the box doesn't mean it's going to be effective. The other thing is particularly with homepage banners,
yes,
those can be a kind of a battleground, almost a territorial battleground for departments.
That's exactly it. That was the next point that I was going to make, Austin. Again, having worked as a brand owner, oftentimes I was the referee in the website and all the different departments and functions within the organization that wanted to have some space on the homepage. And what happens is that becomes your consensus ground. So you get a banner, you get a banner, you get a banner, right? And so everyone, and they're very disconnected and they're very company-centric as opposed to customer-centric. So we're trying to push all of our messages out on the customer, but what we're not doing is providing value for the customer that's coming to our site in a meaningful way.
And Winifred just said something really important. I just want to highlight it again. It's kind of a transferable principle. She talked about that approach being company-centric. Particularly with banners, particularly the homepage, we are more interested in what is good for us as a company, and we do that at the expense of the actual customer. And so the marketer's job is to kind of wrestle themselves and their organization into a ruthless position in favor of what the customer wants, this customer logic that we've talked about often here at MECLabs.
But let's be clear, I appreciate the challenge that marketers do have within their organization, but
it is a challenge.
That's right, but making sure that you become the stewards of within your organizations to ask the question every time when someone comes to you with a banner, ask the question, is this company logic, is it coming from us, is this for our interest, or is this truly for the interest of the customer?
I agree. To drive that home, it just goes back to the principles we talked about, staying dedicated to one idea.
Yes.
And if you have a scrolling banner with different departments in the company, you're not staying dedicated to that one idea.
That's huge. That's right. That's good. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Audience, you optimize us here for a minute. I'm gonna start picking up the pace, but let us know. Is this helping? Is this making sense? Is this useful for you? Farah, if you're on the line, let us know. Actually, you just did. Thanks so much for being. You're very welcome, Farah. Thanks for being on the call. Exciting. If you run any experiments around the recommendations, nothing delights us more than to hear about that and see some of the results. So if you do, share it with us. We'd love to hear from you. Let's go to the next page. This is Motorola Solutions. Brian submitted this. Brian, if you're on the line, let us know. The purpose here is communication systems. It looks like we're talking maybe more about military stuff. And so let's look at this. And Ben, I want to start with you. When you see this page, where are some areas, particularly in the banner, that you see opportunity for optimization?
Yeah, so here what I see is the two videos on the right are the images naturally draw me there. And if we could scroll back up, I'll point out kind of the reason. So when you have these two videos over here, people aren't reading what's on the left. And what's on the left is really your value proposition and what you're trying to do. You also have a third video that just kicked in, which is what I was hoping was a video on a video on a video. And it's really just confusing as to where I should start in this journey. And it's really funny because the first words of the mission are seamlessly integrate mission critical communications. And here they haven't exactly seamlessly done anything with these videos. So that was the first thing that really popped out, was that background video with the other videos on top of it.
That's good. One thing that I see immediately, and because I was thinking about some of the tests that Mike showed us last week. He almost had a banner. He didn't have the videos, but he had a banner similar to this, where he had an image on the right and he had a lot of copy on the left. What he did is he ran a test where he reduced that copy probably 80%, I would say. Ken, would you agree with that? Yeah, 80%. And so, and then that had a triple-digit improvement. It was substantial. There's a lot of copy over here on the left. Not only is it difficult to read when you've got jumping men going on behind it, men and women jumping on behind it, and the colors are, it's very dark, it's very hard to see. It was a 433% lift by just reducing the copy here, just focusing on that next. It's almost like you're trying to completely convince them here in the banner. You don't necessarily have to do that. Just get them kind of motivated to continue going through the page.
Yeah, and so another thing is who's the audience for this, because it feels like it's only for military grade people. And if the person on the line who submitted this, please let me know. But is this really meant to be a military and governmental type product, or if I have a domestic type business that I need to make sure that people are communicating and securely, does it work for them as well? The other thing here, I think, is the cleverness. Achieve total. Anybody else want to try to figure out that word right off the spot without having to really read it? It's interoperability.
Interoperability. We'll say that 5 times.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a math guy, but I don't know if that's actually a real word or not, because I don't read well.
We're marketers. We can make up words.
I don't read good, but
no, I think your point's.
But yeah, so if you're trying to be clever there, just really be clear and tell them what we're actually going to achieve in that. So.
Yeah, and even the headline is, when I first saw this, the headline's confusing. It is you're trying to take a tone, operation, connecting teams, and
right.
You know what, you may know your prospect really well, and that may be something that's very useful to them. They might feel connection there. But just from an outsider looking in, it seems like it would be more effective to have a headline that starts to actually explain more clearly kind of how you connect teams, or what the result is from connecting the actual teams.
Yeah.
All right. Let's keep scrolling down the page for just a second. Let's see if there's any other opportunity for this page.
Yeah, there actually starts to get some good value, and they actually get to the point of why you're here, which is to do a lead generation type thing. But it's so far down the page that you really are asking in the thought process to go a long way to read a lot before you ever get to the actual value and what I'm actually signing up for that form. You talk about process level value proposition too. I mean, it's so important here. But
can you scroll up, Luke? I want to look at this headline for a minute. No, right there. Yeah, so now this headline can be improved, but this headline is an improvement over the headline in the actual banner ad itself. So you might even consider just moving that headline up in the process, because you may be losing people due to confusion because you're trying to be clever in the actual banner. There's just a lot of things that you can, honestly, and I don't want to be, is this Jeff? Yeah, Jeff, I don't want to be too rude, but this is really one of those pages, let's see if I can say this. It's one of those pages that you don't really necessarily need to try to fix. You could probably do better if you just started over, and just kind of reconceive this all together. It looks like you're using a template of a CMS, and you're kind of plugging things in, and they've given you a lot of options. You could strip this down to its bare bones and just focus on the one thing that you want them to do, and just be clear. And I think you would find it would perform. It might not be as sexy or as pretty of a page as you want, but it will be so much more effective than what you currently have here. So
yeah, I think the center section that you have there, where if we could scroll down, or up a little, establish your unified communications platform. Clarity trumps persuasion. We say that every time. And the fact that you're providing some value when you think about that fulcrum of cost of what you want someone to do, and that's engage with you, or to capture a lead so that you can continue the conversation, the relationship with them, then there's a give and a take with that. And you have something that seems to be very valuable. It's the playbook that starts to give you some value in that. And how about we bring that to the forefront so that we're providing something to the customer, and even show what some of those steps are and what that looks like. So
and I
they
think
have
tie
a
it
sense.
to the form, right? Because the form is way disconnected from the value of what you're getting, this free playbook. You've gone and further confused the user by putting the how to buy and share and connect before the form, and then you finish it with a submit button.
Move that up.
But to your point, move that up, use that, and put that value next to the ask.
One of the things we said in the clinic is that sometimes, and we actually showed you several tests, sometimes it's just good to get rid of banners. I know the clinic and this is focused on banners, but sometimes the best thing to do with the banner is to just get rid of it.
Yep. Yeah. I heard you like video, so I put a video in your video.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go, Jeff. Hopefully that's okay. If you run any tests on this, let us know. Let's keep going. Let's move. All right. So here is Health Alliance Medicare Plans. This is also submitted by a Jeff. I doubt the same Jeff, but a different Jeff. We have 80% of our audience actually Jeffs. So no, I'm kidding. So the goal here is trying to get people engaged in enrollment, and want to start with you, Winifred, on this page. Where would you start?
All right.
Let's look at the page real quick, just the whole thing. Let Luke scroll all the way down.
Well, let's choose where we, okay.
Okay, scroll back up to the top. All the way up to the top, and let's look at this banner, and just stay here for a minute, because again, this is where the audience is first going to land.
Okay, well, when I land here and I see Medicare Advantage, just seems right, and let's be clear, I barely see just seems right. I'm not quite sure what any of it means. I'm not sure what it is I'm supposed to do. Turning 65 or retiring, get started with Medicare. Ready to choose, view our plans. Do I view the plans? Do I get started with Medicare? I really don't know what to do. And there's an image that's in this banner as well that could potentially, if we had a clearer value proposition there, could support that in some way. But I have no idea what this image is. I think looks like a Medicare eligible customer. But I was
going to say ghost. But
yeah,
you could say that.
And yeah, that would send the wrong message on a banner like this. So if we're going to have an image, it should work very hard. Everything that's on a page, that's on a banner, has a job to do. No one gets to be there for free. So if we're going to have an image there, it needs to work hard. It needs to support the value that we're bringing to that user. Now, one thing that I do want to point out, where we're starting to head in the right direction, when we start to say, for more than 30 years, we've offered plans with quality doctors. That gets to start establishing some credibility of why you should do whatever it is that you haven't quite figured out we want you to do yet. So we need to, again, dedicate what we're doing, aligning it to the customer motivation, understand who our audience is that might be coming there, right? So it might be a senior that's not as familiar with working through, or they may be highly motivated, but it just may be too much friction and not enough clarity around here for them to understand what it is that they want to do. And they could just get confused because they don't know what to do or have to click back and forth to get to the information that they need to get to and just completely abandon it. So I would simplify, drive that thought sequence, make the image, if we're going to have one, work a lot harder to provide some additional value there.
Yeah, I think to add to that, that is a great line about the company. One of the things about this page is that really...
Which line are you talking about?
The line she was just talking about, for more than 30 years, that value. One of the things here, though, is this page really feels like you're trying to sell me on Medicare, not on Health Alliance, and why I should get in my Medicare plan from Health Alliance. So, focus on your company. People coming and looking for Medicare Advantage, they're probably already about to turn 65 or already 65. Tell them why they should pick you. Also be a little clearer with the buttons, and I don't understand why they're so far apart. Maybe it was to try to de-emphasize them.
Well, you got to get the people.
Yeah, you got to get the ghosts in. But turning 65 or retiring, get started with Medicare. I don't know what that button does, but I imagine it's some more information about Medicare and how it works. So get more information about Medicare probably resonates and ties that back in. Same thing with Ready to Choose. View our plans. It's just.
It seems. Like, go ahead, Winifred.
No, go right ahead.
I was going to point out the audience. Some of the people in the audience are suggesting that they're like, what's the difference between where these two buttons go?
Oh yeah, Joy nailed it.
Are they going to the same spot? It was something we see often work with companies is there's this idea that more options is going to be better, and even I've seen people have 3 calls to action that were different, trying to appeal to different people. All go to the same place.
I've seen that too.
And you're not helping the customer by doing that. You're actually causing them to have to think, and particularly in this case, it's really hard to tell the difference between one versus the other. And anywhere there's this kind of unsupervised thinking, people check out and they're gone.
Again, I think you made this point earlier, Austin, that this is a high anxiety process that you're going through anyway. Medicare is so incredibly important. And so building that credibility and those anxiety relievers and bringing those to the front, there's a ton of them at the bottom of the page. Very good ones at the bottom of the page. We need to bring those things up. We receive the highest ratings in Illinois. Okay, that makes me feel good about choosing your plan. Let's assume that up top, we've told a customer exactly what to do. They know to go to choose a plan or to go to get more information, and not to do so much of the heavy lifting right away. Go choose a plan, right? Yeah. That right now, giving them some more information there. But here are terrific credibility and anxiety relievers.
This should be the start of your page.
That's
Everything above
absolutely.
it, take it out.
The get to know us should be all the way at the top.
Yeah, these bullet points are what we call evidentials here at Mech Labs, and you have one integrated into your headline about the 30 years.
Yep.
That may not be as effective as 98% of our members and 70% of our employees stay with us each year, or I think particularly the top ranked health plan in Illinois, Iowa, according to, so that kind of stuff, especially if they're like a SEAL associated with that kind of
Yep.
stuff is very powerful.
Connecting you to answer in 15 seconds or less.
Where do you see that?
You know that's right, the
second.
second line
That's awesome.
there. So there you have so much rich content and evidentials buried at the bottom that your customers are never
It's
going to
interesting
see.
your point, the 30 years might not be as valued. I thought it was at first, but now that I think about it, you're really saying we've only been around half as long as you. So,
That's true.
You're talking to people who are 60,
That's a
70
good
years
point.
old.
Yeah.
And maybe 30 years doesn't really resonate with them as a huge value
Yeah,
point.
definitely not as much as some of those evidentials lower on the page.
That are just buried. Let's bring those things to the top.
And I think when you land on this page and you have all this great content below, these great evidentials, and you are first presented with these two buttons put so far apart that you're not entirely sure what's going to navigate you to. It feels very red pill, blue pill to me, as if, there's that anxiety of, I choose the wrong one, I got to back out, go back in. So there's a lot of these little small issues, I think, psychological issues that could cause some issues with this page.
Let's help the customer understand what it is that they need to do. We're not helping them at all. We're just jumping them there and say, you figure it out.
All right, guys, we have time for one more page. How many did we get through today, Ken? Number 6. Okay, we're trying to beat our record. All right, so here's the final page. Oh, I don't know if this is a great one or a bad one to end on, but this is Cassandra submitted this. Cassandra, let us know if you're on the line. And it's a B2C company, and the purpose of this page is e-commerce, and I assume around some of these products. Now let's assume the box area to the far left is the banner we're talking about. And before, I can see you kind of wanting to jump in. Before we get there, yeah, that's right. Before we go into it, go ahead and exit out of that pop-up. Oh, whoa, okay, exit out of that pop-up. Yeah, don't submit. There we go.
I almost worked on him.
He almost submitted. All right. So look at this rotating banner to the left. Audience. We'll see if we can keep it on the first one, Luke. Audience, look at this banner and ask yourself, what things would you do, would you recommend to test and improve this banner ad here? Particularly the one, go to the second one, Luke. That's the one that was on the third one. This is like a video game. Here we go. Keep it on that one if you can. All right. So Tim says, what are they selling? Unfortunately, Luke cannot keep it on that banner. It's ruthlessly scrolling from banner to banner. I've definitely experienced that on pages. You're like halfway through reading what you want to read, and then it moves on you. Yeah. And then you can't get back. And by the time you get back, yeah, so Stephen, yep, there you go, Stephen. Stop the autoplay. Joy says, explore the forces of nature. Oops, was that proofread? Ashley says the background kind of makes it hard to read the words. Absolutely. You got to watch out for that, designers. Grow hair with flowers. I'm confused, says Dan. Everyone knows you can grow hair with flowers, Dan, okay? No, absolutely. That's confusing. All right. All right, Walker, you're up.
All right. So the biggest challenge I see is one that actually the audience brought up, is if the background ever makes the text itself hard to read, you're in for some real problems here. One of the big things also with this page is eye path. So firstly, I don't really know what I'm getting myself into with Evoke Beauty. I'm not exactly sure what they're selling. But if I start on the page, it's almost like this helix of an eye path. I'm starting at this scrolling banner, catches my attention first, and I have these products over here on the right, and I start to circle down and around. I almost find myself going in a circle here. So it's interesting because you want the banner to have that, to beg you to interact with it. And I think that some of them do. The call to actions are all over the place, and they're also very small and hard to read on a normal size screen. But you have to have that one cognizant interaction, that one call to action that people want to go to. And if I had a recommendation for this, it would be to definitely tighten up the banner, make sure it's all, saying one thing, make the banner the entire top half, and move your other products and offers down below that. Separate, make a clear separation here, because I look like I'm opening into what looks like a collage.
Yeah, it's funny. I've kind of always wondered what a page of just banners would look like,
right.
And that's what this page is. It is the 100% banner page, and literally, and honestly, I thought Jeff's page would be kind of the bottom of the barrel here, but this page is worse than Jeff's page. It's so hard to even get a sense, and I'm not trying to be too harsh on this, but I'm just trying to, look, this is what I'm doing. I'm putting myself in the voice of the customer. The customer comes here, and there's no conversation. You're just screaming at me. You've got this image here. It's like you're walking into a store.
And I don't know what to do.
There's 6 people yelling at me.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're not making sense.
I don't even know where to start with which products. I see one product, but then you have a bunch of real estate for Instagram, or a bunch of real estate for the newsletter, which I don't even know what your newsletter contains. You have just a completely blank image that's taking up probably 1/5 of the page on the top right there, that's just adding and doing nothing. So I agree.
Yeah. I think Stephen here has a good point. Decision paralysis is exactly what I'm seeing here.
Part of it, what I've seen these pages start to come on the scene with the emergence of Instagram and the emergence of Pinterest. And oftentimes where these pages sometimes work very well is if you're driving inspiration of, I want to paint a guest bedroom, and there's many blocks of inspiration for you to have. But if you're trying to sell a product and you're trying to communicate a product, you need to control that thought sequence of that customer. You're not inspiring them, because these are very unrelated to a certain degree products in many cases. You have your hair stuff, your face stuff, you have lots of different things. So you need to walk them through a process to help them get to know you.
And I just want to extract, because you again hit on a really common thing that we see. There's a lot of people, a lot of marketers, a lot of businesses will go, oh, because Pinterest is doing it, or because Apple is doing it, or because whoever's doing it, we're going to model our page after that. And so what you got to understand is that your customer is different than the Pinterest customer. Your customer is different than Apple's customer. Just because they do it doesn't mean it's going to be effective for you. It's just another form of company logic. Okay? The only way to improve this page is to actually consider your customer and how they want to engage with you. And if I wanted to buy something here, I'd want someone to talk to me like a person, not shout at me.
Yeah, one of the things I talk about people all the time is, it's an interesting bag, right? Because you have designers and developers and all these people doing this, and designers are artists, right? But people are not coming to your site for a piece of art, right? They're coming for a product. They're coming to find something that's going to help them with their beauty regimen, these kind of things. So if you look at your page and you go, man, that's the prettiest page I've ever seen, you're probably missing a lot of value, or you're probably missing a lot of other stuff. I've seen really stripped down basic pages in emails and everything else blow pieces of art out of the water when it comes to functionality.
I think that there's such thing as over-designing, and I think this is one of those examples of a page that is grossly over-designed.
All right, so let me one thing, just one thing you would change, one simple thing you change on this, because that may be months of improvement, months of applying the recommendations we made, but just the one simple thing.
I would pick.
Walker, one thing.
Yes.
We'll come back to Winifred.
Right. If there was one thing I could say to this page is declutter. Please declutter.
Okay, Ben, one thing.
Primary value proposition. You're in a very competitive space with a lot of well-known brands that have been around a long time. Tell me why I need to be into Evoke, if I'm even saying that correctly. I think I am.
Yep, where I am, what I want to do, that's exactly right, Ben.
Good.
Primary value proposition.
Excellent. Well, guys, we are out of time. I hope you found this webinar very helpful. We do these once a month, and what we want to do is just we want to serve you guys. You have expressed that you like these live optimizations. Tell us on this one, what did you find the stuff, did you find the comments, did you find our feedback helpful? You can use your Q&A feature. There will also be a survey that pops up when you exit. We're just like optimizing web pages. We're always trying to optimize these webinars. And so we review every single line of feedback you send to us. We will review it. We'll look at it. Oftentimes we reach out to you to get more feedback. So So thank you. If if there was particular topics you were intrigued on, we have lots of training material around that. If you particularly want to do some of your own experimentation around some of these, maybe your own website, maybe your own website banner, there's opportunity for you to check that in the form there. You can check out our kind of research partner opportunities or on-site training, etc. Again, guys, what we're trying to do here is just build a community of marketers that are just interested in understanding what works. And so to that end, if you found this valuable, we just ask you to do one thing. Just share it with a friend, and we'll see you back here next month.